In today's story, my friend, you'll hear of a tragedy sparked by an innocent act, an act we all do, every single one of us, without realizing the danger it may hide. I could sum it up in one chilling phrase: killed by love, or the kiss of death. What happened to little Malik could happen literally in any home, but beyond that. But the horror that follows will shake you. This is a story packed with lessons, one you won't hear anywhere else. So don't forget to hit that like button and let's dive into today's episode. Peace be upon you, I am Ahmed, and today we're sharing follower stories. If you have a story you would like to share, you can send it to the Instagram account appearing on the screen. Our first story is from Shoaib Imran from the city of Azamur in Morocco. He told me a really bizarre story, one of the few on my channel that has a deep message and also includes a medical fact. This is one of those pieces of information that many people know, but just as many don't, and it's vital for everyone. Shoaib says, I am 21 years old, I have no brothers, no sisters, I'm my parents' one and only, and my life revolves around a mobile phone, social media, and a computer. This was my life from when I was a little kid until I grew up. As a result, this gave him a lot of life experience, but it was all through social media, just fake experience, nothing more, because the stuff we see online is just carefully selected, specific moments that are posted to get views, and it can be really harmful to viewers who are still young and haven't had a lot of real-world interaction. Shoaib continues, even in my school years, I lived in isolation. My parents sent me to an elite school reserved for the children of the rich and powerful families. Every student there was locked in a silent race to flaunt their wealth, their achievements, and the prestige of their family name. That was the shaky ground my life stood on, but worse still, my parents were completely detached from faith. I never once saw them pray or even care. Almost 3 years ago, a miracle happened in our family. After decades of believing it would never be possible, my mother was expecting a baby. It was the happiest news I'd ever heard in my life. I couldn't believe it. Finally, I was going to have a brother or a sister. No more loneliness. My parents had married young, and I was born in their first year together. After that, for reasons we never fully understood, maybe health, maybe fate, they could never have another child. Until that moment. In the wake of that news, our small, loving family found its calm. Time flowed until my mother gave birth to a baby girl. We named her Malak, and the name could not have been more fitting. To us, she was the very definition of beauty. Together, my parents and I set out to give her the best life we could. The most delightful toys, the warmest care. We even found ourselves competing to pamper her. I loved her more than anything else. More than myself, and I mean that with all my heart. 3 months passed, and then came a tragedy beyond words. Malak, our precious baby who had just entered this world, was taken away by illness. But the most devastating part? It was a mistake shared by the entire family. Out of our love for my sister Malak, we always sat beside her, kissed her, and played with her. One day I caught a severe fever, which ended with a sore near the mouth. You might have guessed it, it's what is called a fever blister or cold sore, caused by a virus known as HSV-1. Cold sores are so common, so widespread that almost no year passes without someone getting them once or twice. Back then, neither I nor my family had the medical awareness to understand the real danger of being near, kissing, or playing with a newborn. And so, without knowing, I kept holding her, kissing her, and playing with her, my only baby sister, just 5 days after the cold sore had already appeared. My little sister moved less than usual, her smile dimmed. Then her temperature shot up, dangerously high. We didn't know what was wrong. We rushed her to the hospital only for the doctors to be shocked by her condition. Within just 1 hour, she was gone. The cause was cold sores, combined with other illnesses she unknowingly inherited from our parents. My father, for instance, had a cold and spent the whole day beside her, playing with her. And so, tragically, the old saying came true. Sometimes love can kill. We were thrown into a spiral of grief and crushing depression after losing her. She was our joy, our sunshine, and losing her shattered our world. The days passed, and I couldn't find a way to escape what had happened, especially since I was part of the disaster myself. Alone in my room, I sat there, thoughts spiraling like a lunatic's, obsessed with finding a way to bring Malik back. I started searching for books that could explain the concept of death, because honestly, I was completely ignorant about it, despite my age. I knew the basics, that when a person dies, their soul moves on to the afterlife. But there were so many things I didn't understand. Then I stumbled upon a book that claimed it could bring my sister back to life using certain words. I didn't even know magic was forbidden. I only had a shallow understanding of it. You could call me foolish, naive, even stupid because of the ideas in my head. So I began my search for that book, and believe it or not, it wasn't hard to find. It was sold in certain places, but you had to buy it in person. So that's exactly what I did. Without telling my family, I drove to an area called Al-Bahara, where I met a man claiming to sell rare books. I bought it from him and returned home, drowning in my own foolishness. My friend, I was sinking deep into stupidity, thinking like no sane person would. Maybe it was my sister's death that pushed me into that darkness. I opened the book, and to my shock, it was filled with step-by-step instructions, an actual detailed user manual for bringing the dead back to life. Everything was simple and organized. Step 1, remove any photos or objects with Quranic verses from the house. Luckily, we had none. I marked the first step and kept reading. Second, I needed to start reading after 2 a.m. inside the bathroom, literally, and bring some clothes that belonged to my dead sister, along with some candles and other strange conditions that I definitely will not mention. I indeed started doing what I was doing, and I wouldn't be exaggerating if I said I thought life was like Fortnite. Your friend dies, and you bring them back to life very simply, literally. So even when Shoaib was giving me his story and calling himself stupid, I couldn't say a word against him. When I began performing the ritual, there wasn't a shred of hesitation in me. I was determined to bring my sister back, no matter the cost, and without my family knowing, so I could surprise them by fixing the mistake I might have caused. I opened the book, recited the words exactly as written, and followed every step to the letter, alone in complete darkness inside the bathroom, with only 3 candles barely lighting the space around me. When I finished, the first step was to blow out the candle on my right, then read the passage again, louder this time. This was supposed to be the moment I would meet my sister, Malak. To bring her back to life, God forgive me, I had to blow out the left candle after reading the words for the 3rd time with a loud voice. It was simple in setup, but unsettling in detail. 3 candles, one to my right, one to my left, and one in front of me. Blow out the right one after the first reading, the front one after the second, and if all went as planned, my sister would appear before my eyes. And after the 3rd reading, blowing out the left candle would bring her back to this world. I blew out the right candle, then the front one. I looked around, nothing. My sister didn't appear. So I raised my voice, read the words again, turned toward the left candle, and as I was about to blow it out, I froze. Right there in the dim light was my sister, exactly as she looked at 3 months old. Eyes wide open, but her body was positioned like a cat. If you didn't get what I just said, let me put it simply. I saw my sister, the one who died when she was only 3 months old, behind the candle beside me in the middle of the darkness, exactly as she looked in life. But this time, she was crouched like a cat, hands and feet on the ground, staring at me with an unearthly gaze. I remember feeling overjoyed. The experiment had worked. My smile was instant, intense. But before I could take another breath, my sister lunged at me, scratching my face like a real cat gone mad. Her claws tore at me without mercy. Panic surged, so I pushed her away, slamming her into the wall, but she came right back for me. By then, the candles had gone out. There was no light, only the suffocating darkness of that place. I couldn't fully grasp what was happening. All I knew was that a creature before me looked like my sister, yet fought with the strength and savagery of a feral beast. Blow after blow rained down until the world went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed after being in a coma for 3 whole days. On my parents' faces, I saw the deepest signs of sorrow, shock, and fear. I asked them what had happened, and what they told me was beyond anything I could imagine. They said that while they were sleeping, they heard my voice, speaking strange, incomprehensible words. Words from that book. The words that were supposed to be the key, the password to bring my sister back to life. God forbid. They went to check on me and found me in the bathroom, reading those bizarre words. The door locked tight. They tried to open it, but I started screaming, as if something unseen was attacking me. And then they heard a cat inside, hissing and clawing. They thought a cat had gotten in and was attacking me for real. But what I was doing in there, and what that cat was doing, no one knows to this day. When my father broke the door and rushed in, he was struck with the shock of a lifetime, staring right at an abnormally huge gray cat that bolted right under their feet. As for me, I was burning, literally. Flames clung to my clothes, scorching me alive, and I had no idea where they came from. The fire had no source, and all the candles in the room had already gone out. My parents later swore the cat was almost the size of a dog, lightning fast and eerily gray. But here's the strangest part. How did it escape? Every single door in the house was locked. Turns out, the book was nothing but a cheap fake, stuffed with every twisted, harmful spell you could imagine. Whoever wrote it clearly had one goal: to cash in by selling it to fools like me. My father threw it straight into the trash. Days passed, and I was finally discharged from the hospital. But for the next 7 days, I kept seeing that gray cat inside our house. Just for a split second each time, darting from one spot to another. My mother saw it too, and my father, well, it ran right between his legs, tripping him so badly he fell to the floor. That fall cost him 3 teeth. 7 long days, we lived through the most terrifying chapter of our lives. Until one relative suggested we recite the Holy Quran in the house. And so, we brought the Quran, hung verses on the walls, and kept reciting without pause. By the grace of God, peace finally returned to our lives. I'll admit it, I was foolish once, but life taught me a hard truth I can't keep to myself. If there's one thing I can do now, it's to tell you this story. First, it's forbidden to get close to a newborn infant, especially in the first months of their life. The viruses and bacteria you live with normally can cause the infant to die because they don't have sufficient immunity. If it doesn't cause their death, it could result in serious illnesses that could lead to complete paralysis. It can happen from a kiss on the cheek from a sibling, a hug from a proud uncle, or even the touch of a loving mother or father. So speak up, because the cost of silence might be a lifetime of pain. Do not let any guest or person play with an infant at this age. Only the mother and father. Don't stay quiet out of politeness. Protect that fragile life, because once the damage is done, no amount of regret can undo it. A crystal clear message for you, my friends. It could help some of you, and I bet you've never heard it before. And the second thing we learn from this story, don't get smart and mess around with books of magic and the dark arts. It starts as a sin and ends in pure disaster. Share your thoughts in the comments. As for that gray cat, well, I personally believe our friend summoned a djinn when unleashed total chaos. The second story comes from Mariam Khalid Al-Otaibi from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. She recalls, 2 years ago, maybe more, I can't remember the exact date, I went on a leisure trip to one of our neighboring countries. While exploring the markets, I stumbled upon an Islamic cloak or abaya in a shop. It was unusual and expensive. The shopkeeper told me each piece was one of a kind, handmade, no two alike. I loved its strange beauty, imagining wearing it on special occasions. Because deep down, we all want to stand out, especially at big events. I returned home to Saudi Arabia and wore it. My husband admired it. My family loved it. It became my go-to for every outing. Elegant, luxurious, handcrafted. But I had no idea that this abaya would become the reason I'd end up in the hospital, facing strange accidents and haunting misfortunes. It all began on the third day of wearing the cloak inside my home. A smell, so vile I can hardly describe it, started creeping into my senses. I searched everywhere for its source, but found nothing. The strangest part, I was the only one who could smell it. My husband noticed nothing. My parents came, confirmed the air was clean, and that only deepened the mystery. I had to see a specialist. I thought something might be seriously wrong, but against all odds, the doctor confirmed I was perfectly fine. My respiratory system was in flawless condition, yet there was still something strange. I kept smelling odd scents inside my home, and sometimes, just faintly, outside. I was thinking there is something in my house, something I had to face and get rid of. The closest possibility I could think of was that maybe there was a dead animal hidden somewhere, inside the furniture, within the walls, or tucked away in some dark corner. I insisted my husband hire a specialized company. They came, inspected every inch of the house, visually, thoroughly, and even with advanced detection devices, but nothing, absolutely nothing that could explain such a foul smell. And the strangest part, I was the only one who could smell it. I tried to adapt to it, but as the days passed, things started to feel strange and unexplainable. For example, when I was cooking, I'd notice objects moving without me touching them. The salt shaker, for instance, I'd place it beside the stove only to find it behind me on the dining table. Even the food I was chopping seemed to shrink in quantity. Still, I told myself, maybe it's normal. Maybe it's just me, distracted, moving things without realizing it. But one day, we had guests. Well, not really guests. My own family. My mother, father, and younger sister. I started cooking for them, wearing, of course, that abaya, the one I practically lived in, and that's when I noticed something I can only describe as strange and truly bizarre. To understand it, you need to know this. The kitchen was huge, split into two sections. One side was for cooking, the other a dining area for serving guests, like a waiting space until the food was ready. This dining area was open to the living room, so anyone sitting there could see straight into the kitchen and vice versa. A strange design, but undeniably beautiful. I finished preparing the food and I started carrying it from the kitchen to the serving room, which, like I said, is also inside the kitchen. But then I noticed something strange. The people sitting in the reception area, they looked off. I could see them staring at the TV in complete silence, frozen, motionless, saying nothing. The channels kept changing on the screen in an almost taunting way. I just stood there, watching this strange scene unfold, trying to figure out what was happening. I called my husband, no answer. I called my sister, same thing. My mother, my father, nothing. They were like statues sitting in front of the television. So I raised my voice. What's going on? You're scaring me. Why are you so quiet? Still, no reply. And then I heard it. The plates behind me suddenly crashed to the floor with a violent force, shattering into pieces, food splattering everywhere. The glass around me began to break one by one, chaos filling the kitchen. Things were shattering right beside me, right in front of me, without anyone touching them. In shock, I started screaming, turning to my family, still frozen in their seats, when suddenly I felt my body give way. I hit the floor, and in the blink of an eye, darkness swallowed everything. When I woke up, I was inside an ambulance. But the strangest part, my clothes were soaked in blood, my hands covered in wounds, and the doctor was pulling shards of glass from my skin. They gave me the urgent care I needed. I saw my husband and my whole family standing there, frozen in shock and fear. When I asked them what had happened, they told me we were sitting in front of the TV watching a news channel. Then you walked in, calling out to us. We answered, but you kept calling my name louder and louder. You looked frightened, maybe even shocked. We stood up to see what was going on, only for you to start swinging at us, attacking everyone, smashing plates, wrecking the kitchen. Suddenly, you were flinging plates and food like someone trapped in a hysterical frenzy. We tried desperately to regain control, but your wild movement sent your head crashing into the wall. You dropped to the ground, unconscious. That's all that happened. Something so strange, so bizarre, with no explanation at all. But after days passed, it repeated in the same way, and I also got injured severely to the point where I was in the hospital for treatment for an entire 7 days. The common factor was that this situation happened while I was wearing this abaya. My husband suspected the abaya, especially after focusing and examining the letters embroidered on it, letters that seemed random but weren't. The letters formed words even if they were meaningless or not understandable. After investigating the matter, he literally discovered the disaster. Some of you may have also heard of this matter. These words on the cloak were actual magical incantations and even phrases praising the devil, God forbid. The people who made these cloaks had already been exposed long before I bought mine. The factory was shut down completely, but here's the part that will shock you. These cloaks were made from fabric you'd never expect, discarded hospital bedding, the kind that's thrown away because it's contaminated. They were recycling that fabric into cloaks, selling them in the markets for reasons only God knows. The scandal broke out. The factory was shut for good. But the cloaks, they were never destroyed. They simply found their way to other places, waiting for unsuspecting buyers. Was their goal to glorify devil and bewitch people? Or did they infuse magic to create something strange, to be sold as something valuable perhaps, or just to harm people? Endless questions, no answers, no logic, no explanation, but maybe you have one. Share it in the comments. Once you've subscribed, caught up on the past episodes, turned on notifications, and shared this video to see what's next. Follow me on Instagram and send me your strangest story. Maybe it will be featured on the channel. I am Ahmed. May God protect you. Goodbye.